Good day, everyone. I am Roxann Rea, your teacher for today. Before we formally start our discussion for this day, let us first have our learning objectives. After studying the unit, the students should be able to first define and identify the worth of ideas, second, use the cast method in determining the worth of ideas, and the third, appreciate and inferences about the thoughts and feelings expressed in a text. Our topic for today is entitled Worth of Ideas to Inferences, and our general objective is to determine the worth of ideas to make simple inferences. Let us first a short activity. This is the first one. Let us test your memory. We will just have a recap about the last discussion that we had. This activity is entitled Back in Time. You are only tasked to answer the following questions briefly. The first question is, how will you define poetry? The second question, what is a short story? And the third question, what are the elements of a short story? Great! You answer all the questions that I had. The next activity, let us test your mind. This activity is entitled Vocabulary Development. The direction, match the definitions in column B with the word they refer in column A. The words presented in column A are heritage, values, culture, principle, and virtue. You need to match these words in their right definitions in column B. Are we clear with the direction? Okay, so you all got the correct answer. For the guide question, why is the Philippine cultural heritage important to Filipinos, and how do we preserve our cultural heritage? In addition to that, cultural and its heritage reflect and shape values, beliefs, and aspirations, thereby defining a people's national identity. And it is important to preserve our cultural heritage because it keeps our integrity as a people. And the best way to preserve your cultural heritage, whatever it may be, is to share it with others. Cultural heritage again and natural history of a nation has a very high value and is unique, and it is an identity that can be introduced to the whole world. For our next activity, you are only tasked to listen carefully. I will read an excerpt or the summary of President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation address on the year 2020 and answer the questions that will follow. Are you ready to listen? I will read the excerpt of President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation Address 2020. President Rodrigo Duterte delivered his fifth State of the Nation Address, or SONA, before Congress Monday afternoon, July 27, 2020, at the Batasang Pambansa Complex in Quezon City. Duterte was joined by Senate President Vicente Soto III and House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, as well as some lawmakers. Other legislators and guests who were expected to attend the SONA Monday were not able to make it as they tested positive for the coronavirus, reports said. So the government implemented a very strict security at the Batasang Pambansa on Monday with rapid tests and swab tests conducted for those entering the venue. Only 50 people were also allowed inside the plenary. Below is the summary of the year's SONA. So at 3:57 p.m., President Rodrigo Duterte arrived at the Batasang Pambansa complex in Quezon City, where he will deliver his fifth State of the Nation address or SONA. He arrived on board at of a helicopter. So at 4 p.m., Duterte is now at the Batasang Pambansa. Congress announced his arrival nation's prayer. So at 4:03 p.m., singing of the Philippine national anthem. Vice President Leni Robredo attends the SONA via video conference. So at 4:04 p.m., Duterte started SONA. So the vaccine, as stated by Duterte, the vaccine is around the corner, or sooner and not later, the coronavirus will be laid to rest. President Rodrigo Duterte hit Senator Franklin Drilon and ABS-CBN. I am a casualty of the Lopezes during the 2016 election. He called the Lopezes oligarchs. If we allow greed and self-interest to rule us, we will be left with nothing better than the lesser evil instead of the greater good. So, over 4.3 million poor families benefited from the Pantawid Pamilyang program, said the president. President Duterte commends the initiative and work of Senator Bongo. He said there are currently 75 malasakit centers in the country. He said this will ensure that people remain healthy and supported. Duterte said frontline processes, including consular processes and business permits, among others, were streamlined. Duterte assured that the government will protect the rights of children. Part of our efforts to uphold human rights is the protection of the rights of children. Government efforts to protect the rights of children will be amplified to prevent, reduce, and eliminate any form of child labor. So Duterte also thanked the military, police, and security guards for working to keep peace and order in the community. Duterte thanked local government units for stepping up and initiating their own response against COVID-19. He said he is praying that the officials will set aside partisan politics and do what is good for all. Duterte said the government has allocated 2.5 billion pesos for poor and low-income households who are affected by the pandemic. The government has extended financial assistance to over 650,000 affected individuals in the formal sector, with 110 OFWs abroad and almost 83,000 repatriated OFWs provided temporary employment through TUPAD projects. He added that senior citizens were provided stipend. President Duterte thanked members of Congress for the effort you have invested in passing the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. Duterte assured that the government will help the overseas Filipino workers, saying he had tasked TESDA to come up with trainings and will retool the OFWs. He said he also called on CHED for scholarship programs for qualified dependents of OFWs. The president also called on DA and DTI to come up with agribusiness and in entrepreneurship to help displaced OFWs, while he tasked Land Bank and other government financial institutions to provide low-interest loan to OFWs. Duterte to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Provide regulatory relief for MSMEs and allow loan payment extension without incurring penalties and charges. We enjoined our people to boost the economy by traveling locally. Duterte said that the government is committed to protecting both the physical and digital lives of the Filipinos. Duterte called on all local government instrumentalities to eliminate weighing. Panahon na para mawala ang pila. The President called for paperless transactions in government. We need e-governance for our people to better transition into the new normal and minimize red tape. Duterte reiterated that he will not allow the traditional face-to-face teaching unless there is COVID-19 vaccine. I cannot put the lives of our teachers and students at risk. The President warned smart communication and Globe Telecom to improve their services before December, or else he will spend the next 2 years in ensuring that the government will improve telecommunications without you. Better have the line cleared. Duterte assured that the government will hire and deploy more than 20,000 health professionals to isolated and disadvantaged areas and at the same time improve barangays and rural health units facilities. Duterte said when he declared martial law in Mindanao and extended it 3 times, it ended without abuses by the civilian sector, police, military, because this time I know that they know how to love the country. Duterte reiterated that the swift passage of the law reviving the death penalty by lethal injection. This law will not only help us deter criminality but also save our children from the dangers posed by illegal drugs. Duterte called on Congress to amend the Republic Act 10912, also known as the Continuing Professional Development (CPD) Act of 2016. In this time of pandemic, the requirement for professionals to undergo seminar is unrealistic. Itong mga seminar na ito dapat mahinto. The President told Congress to prioritize the passage of a law that will adjust the system for retirement and pension. Duterte said he doubled the salary of policemen to eliminate corruption and so the cops will have a decent life and that they are able to get the things which ordinarily cannot be reached by a government employee. Duterte emphasized the creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience and People Safety, saying this may be created before another major disaster would hit the Philippines. So Duterte called the passage of the National Land Use Act, which he has said has been pending for decades. Pagsilip lang ho ninyo yan. He added that the rehabilitation of Boracay showcased the government's resolve to safeguard environment. The President also requested Congress to pass a law that will establish the Coconut Farmers Trust Fund. Tulungan natin ang ating magsasaka. Duterte said an Internet Transaction Act must be passed to ensure the growth of e-commerce in the country. Duterte reiterated that the Philippines cannot afford to go to war with China. China is claiming it. We are claiming it. China has the arms. We do not have it. So it's simple as that. They are in possession of the property. So what can we do? We have to go to the war and I cannot afford it. Inutil ako dyan. Aminin ko sa inyo. Wala akong magawa, he said. Duterte said the Filipinos have no other choice but to work together. He said the government is not perfect. there could be improvements here and there, but he assured that the government will not stop until we get things right. He vowed that the government will address squarely these problems and challenges because of the COVID-19 pandemic to be able to proceed to a new normal. Because President Duterte called on the Filipino people to unite. Ito ang panahon para magtulungan, hindi panahon para maglamangan. This is the time to bring out the best in us. Duterte said the oligarchy that exists in the Philippines is the oligarchy that existed during the Spanish time. This is the oligarchy that controls the Philippines by taking control of the water and the electricity. Yan ang oligarchy mo, Drilon. Wala nang oligarchy dito, except that at 5:45 p.m., Duterte ended his SONA. Joint session of Congress was adjourned. So that is the excerpt of President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation Address, year 2020. So now we will be answering the questions that follow. So, so the first question, did you understand the excerpt? Why or why not? For the second question, how does the message being delivered? And for the third question, what do you think is the message of the SONA? So you did a great job. Excellent. So now we will proceed to the discussion. So first, let us define what is listening. So listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret the messages in the communication process. So to listen is to give attention to sound or action. When listening, one is hearing what others are saying and trying to understand what it means. The act of listening involves complex affective, cognitive, and behavioral processes. And also to listen, we need to make a conscious effort not just to hear what people are saying but to take in. And it I we will digest and understand their sayings. Not only does listening enhance your ability to understand better and make you a better communicator, it also makes the experience of speaking to you more enjoyable to other people. So next one, let us define active listening. An active listener not only pays attention but withholds judgments during the speaker turns and reflects on what being said. So, active listening is the practice of preparing to listen, observing what verbal and nonverbal messages are being sent, and then providing appropriate feedback for the sake of showing attentiveness to the message being presented. This form of listening conveys a mutual understanding between speaker and listener. Active listening includes responses that demonstrate that you understand what the other person is trying to say or to tell you about his or her experiences. So, this is a communication technique that's very different from the passive or unfocused listening that we often adopt in our everyday conversation. So next we have the keys to effective listening. These are 12. Number 1, maintain eye contact with the speaker if possible. Number 2, pay attention and listen for ideas. Number 3, find areas of interest. 4, judge content, not the delivery. So number 5, don't interrupt and be patient. 6, hold back your points and counterpoints. 7, resist distractions. 8, pay attention to the facial expressions and gestures of the one speaking. Number 9, keep your mind open and be flexible. 10, ask questions during pauses and give feedback. 11, listen with empathy to try and see the speaker's point of view. Number 12, anticipate, summarize, weigh the evidence, and look between the lines. So, how do we connect critical thinking in getting the word of ideas in the text listened to? Critical thinking occurs whenever people figure out what to believe or what to do and do so in a reasonable, reflective way. The concepts of and principle of critical thinking can be applied to any context or case, but only by reflecting upon the nature of that application. Critical thinking skills include observation, interpretation, analysis, inference, evaluation, explanation, and metacognition. So, the ability to think critically about a matter or to analyze a question, situation, or problem down to its most basic parts is what helps us evaluate the accuracy and truthfulness of statements, claims, and information we read and hear. Your critical reading of a text and thinking about a text enables you to use it to make your own arguments. So, as a critical thinker and writer, you make judgments and interpretations of the ideas, arguments, and claims of others presented in the text you read. So, one of the core critical thinking skills you need every day is the ability to examine the implications and consequences of a belief or action. In its deepest form, this ability can help you form your own set of beliefs in everything from climate change to religion. So, next, we have critical thinkers are those who are able to do the following. So one, recognize problems and find workable solutions to those problems. So na-identify nila yung problem na gagawa nila ng solution at nabibigyan nila ng pansin kung ano yung mga solution na dapat ibigay sa isang problem. The second one, understand the importance of prioritization in the hierarchy of problem-solving tasks. Number 3, gather relevant information. Number 4, read between the lines by recognizing what is not said or stated. Number 5, use language clearly, efficiently, and with efficacy. Number 6, interpret data and form conclusions based on the data. 7, determine the presence of lack of logical relationships. Make sound conclusions and or generalizations based on the given data. So, gumagawa ka ng generalization mo about sa mga natutunan mo sa mga nakalap mong information. So, next, test conclusions and generalizations. Tinitingnan mo kung yung conclusion at generalization mo ay tugmang-tugma doon sa napakinggan mo or nabasang text. Next, reconstruct one's patterns of beliefs on the basis of wider experience. And the last one, render seriate judgments about specific things and qualities in everyday life. So, therefore, critical thinkers must engage in highly active listening to further their critical thinking skills. People can use critical thinking skills to understand, interpret, and assess what they hear in order to formulate appropriate reactions or responses. These skills allow people to organize the information that they hear, understand its context or relevance, recognize unstated assumptions, make logical connections between ideas, determine the truth values, and draw conclusions. So, are we clear with the discussion? So, now let's proceed to the activity time. Let us test your best. So, for the first activity, listen to one of your favorite songs. Pick out at least 5 lines that are worthy ideas and write them in your answer sheet. You are given 5 minutes to answer that. Next, yes, good job and great. Next, we have reading time. Directions, read the text carefully, determine the idea if it is worthy or not. Pick out at least 3 lines in the text, create a table with 2 columns, and write W for worthy ideas and NW for unworthy ideas. So, ang gagawin nyo, maggagawa kayo ng isang table with 2 columns. Sa first column, ang worthy ideas, and the second column ay unworthy ideas. Ilalagay nyo na lang sa taas ay yung W for worthy ideas and NW for unworthy ideas. Pipili lang kayo kahit tig-3 lines lang sa text na ipapakita ko sa inyo. So, this is the text. It is entitled Seatbelts. Click. That's the sound of safety. That's the sound of survival. That's the sound of a seatbelt locking in place. Seatbelts save lives, and that is a fact. That's why I don't drive anywhere until mine is tight. Choosing to wear your seatbelt is as simple as choosing between life and death. Which one will you choose? Think about it. When you are driving in a car, you may be going 60 miles per hour or faster. That car is zipping down the road. Then somebody ahead of you locks up his or her brakes. Your driver doesn't have time to stop. The car that you are in crashes. Your car was going 60 miles per hour. Now it has suddenly stopped. Your body, however, is still going 60 miles per hour. What's going to stop your body? Will it be the windshield or the seatbelt? Every time that you get into a car, you make that choice. I choose that seatbelt. So next activity, we have naglalag lang po ang laptop. This one. It is your assignment. So best actor and actresses. So for the directions, find a partner which you think will be a great actor or actress for you. After choosing your partners, search for a conversation of just 2 persons in any local or international movies, then execute it through role play. After that, take a picture of you and your partner, then paste it in a bond paper, then put some caption. So, itong assignment nyo, ang gagawin nyo ay maghahanap kayo ng partner, magvi-video kayo ng yung alam nyong pinakasikat na line ng napanood nyong movie. Then, i-video nyo iyon, isasend nyo iyon sa ating GC. And then, after that, you will take a picture of you, both of you, and under your picture, you will put some caption. So, for the criteria, number 1, teamwork, manifest coordination and collaboration among group members. Clarity, clearly presents with accordance to the given topic. Audience, impact, the presenter hold the audience interest. Creativity, how the students present their task. And number 5, relevance, present relevant task. So the legend 5, very satisfying, 4, satisfying, 3, remarkable, 2, notable, and 1, needs more practice. So for the generalization, upon studying this unit, what can you say about the worthiness of ideas and how can you apply it in your everyday living? Thank you for your answer. So now, we will try to assess yourself. For the directions, write true if the statement corresponds to get worthiness of ideas, and if it falls, it is a typographical error. If it falls, write false na lang. So number 1, make sound conclusions based on given data. So yes, it is true. Number 2, hold back your points and counterpoints. No, it is false. Number 3, gather relevant information. Yes, correct, it is true. Number 4, read between the lines by recognizing what is not said or what is stated. Yes, it is true. And last number, keep an eye contact. Yes, it is true. So great, you have done a wonderful task. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something about our discussion for today. See you next meeting. Again, I am Roxann Rea, your teacher today. Thank you.